I think I will give a few more minutes to more people to join the webinar. Please, can you write it down in the chat if you can hear me and see me? That'll be great. Then I know that everything is working properly. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's give it a minute and then we can start the webinar. While we are waiting for some more people to join, let me tell you that this presentation and this recording actually, it will be shared with you with, I might even be today, but or tomorrow, that you're going to get an email, the email you use to register, of course, and then you get the presentation, the PDF, and you're also going to get the recording. So then if you, you're also going to have the chance at the end of the webinar, one colleague of mine will join the webinar, and then she will help me with the question. So you can pop out your questions here in the chat, or you can see a Q&A as well. You can also pop up the questions over there, and my colleague can answer them during the presentation also. And then at the end, if not all of them are answered yet, then she will. Then we're going to do them live and answer them live. And let's say tomorrow or after you receive the presentation or something, you remember something else, you can always drop us an email and ask your questions, of course. Yeah. So I guess we'll start it because we have some people already joined it. So for who just started, thank you very much for being here. Good morning. Let's start. Let me close the chat and then I can go further. So as I said before, today's presentation will be recorded and shared with you. Also the video, also the whole recording, the video, and also the PDF presentation. So you're going to have access to it. My name is Diovana. I am from Brazil, living in the Netherlands for about, I think it's going to be 15 years next year. It's been a long time. I have lived in different cities. As I said, I'm from Brazil. I have two kids, a daughter and a son. Call them my little devils. I have rented out many places. I believe before I bought my first house, I bought my first home in 2004. End of 2014, renovated everything, sold it, bought a new one, renovated as well. The second one is a very, very old house, 1906. And then, but before that, I rented a lot of places or different places, I believe around more than 6 or 7 in the Netherlands before buying my first property. So if you are in that journey, I know the feeling. Let's get to know you a little bit. We have a poll, so we can just get to know you and just to know how you found us, those kind of questions. And while you do that, it takes about, I'll give you about 10 to 20 seconds. While you do that, I just want to say that I work for this company for almost 5 years now. I am a buying agent and also a rental agent. And we also have a service of letting, so we can help out letting properties as well. Yeah, and then it would be nice to know if you let us know where you find us. More or less your age, what your household is. Thank you so much for filling this in. Let's see. I guess almost everybody already answered. Thank you very, very much. So I can, oh, no, few people still answering. The noise you hear is our coffee machine because we love coffee. So the machine is kind of working a little bit. Yeah, that was it. I will end the poll and then we can continue. Let me just close this, otherwise I can't move forward. Wait a second. Yes. There we go. Some context, some things that we're going to talk today, a little introduction about everything, market info, that's very important, market drivers, some savings, what you need to actually buy a property in the Netherlands and how does everything work, and some tips to win in this market. And the timeline, of course, which is very important. A lot of people have no idea how long it might take and what can happen when what are actually the information you see on Funda. I believe most of you probably know funda.nl. That's the website where I would say 99% of the properties are that you can the properties that are for sale in this country. So there you can have an idea of. But we're gonna talk a little bit, and then I can explain what you look at on Funda and how does the transfer process works, for example. Greatness is achievement in agents of others. So here is our team, the buying team from AHN. So me, my colleague Ludo, Rick, and Rafaela, we are getting a new colleague because things are getting way too busy for all of us. And yeah, this is our team. It's we are all from all over the world, and we all have lived abroad. We all have the experience of being expats somewhere else. So that's yeah, that's quite nice because we understand the situation. I really like that. We are no traditional real estate agents, which means that we do not have properties to sell it. So we don't have our own properties. We help people to buy and rent a property. We charge 1% of the appraisal value. I will explain to you, if you don't know yet, what the appraisal value is a little bit further in the process. And that's a very, very important information for you to get a mortgage. And we know, of course, what it looks like to settle in a new country. We all have been there in that situation. What's our add values? Selling agents do take offers much more serious from our company. We've been in the market for about 9 years already. And then we can sometimes book viewings when it's no longer possible. That's something that is true when you see a property on Funda.nl, for example, and then especially if it's a property that energy label A, which is now a big trend because of the cost of energy in this country are skyrocket. Well, it's getting better now. They might have a certain amount of people that they would like to have to see the property, and then they normally give us a spot when it's no longer possible for you to see the property. Review we support by review Dutch legal and property documents. So yes, I do speak Dutch. A lot of people in my company also do, and then we can go through all the documents in Dutch with you as well to make sure that you sign the correct things. We define market value through market data. That's very, very important. One of the most important things I would say, especially if you need a mortgage. I will go very deeply on the matter further in the presentation, and then you can ask your questions about it. And we will inform you about the rules and regulations. That's something that's also very important, especially if in the future you're thinking about moving abroad, go back to your home country, or just have a sabbatic, for example, or something like that. So then I'm going to talk a little bit about the rules and also a few rules for the mortgage and everything. So we're going to see that a little bit further. We make sure that we don't make the same mistakes that we have made. We bought our properties, and there are definitely things that could be better, especially before during the process. So I'm also going to give you some examples. I think that happens that you can take, yeah, for your own process, of course. One more poll for you, please, if you'll be so kind to fill in for us. Where are you in the process? So then I know if you have already sent an offer, if you had an offer accepted, for example, if you already talked to an agent, if you have talked to a mortgage advisor, very, very important. So that's for me, it's very important to know, so I can see how the presentation goes and maybe go a little bit more deep in things that you need. I see that a lot of people haven't talked to a mortgage advisor. Are we gonna chat about that? You haven't talked to an agent yet. So I said it before, you can always, I think I said it before, sorry. You can always book an intake with us. It's for free, so we can go to your specific situation and to explain you more deeply about the buying process. At the end of this presentation, when you receive it, you're going to have my contacts. So please feel free to do that if you like. Viewing property, some people are viewing properties already. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I will end the poll and then we can continue. Let's go. Some market info, which is very important for you guys. Some numbers. This is the Q1 2023. The average price of the house for sale in the Netherlands, it was 394,000 euros, 394,000 euros, as you can see. New builds Q1, that was quite high. It was 468,000. But as you can see, the average price went a little bit down from 2022. Average price was 407, and now the Q1 is 394. But the new builds, which means new build is a building that is still being built, that you are buying literally in the paper, and then it will take about 2-3 years to be built. They all come with the energy label A+++, and everything that you can imagine, most likely without gas and all the correct insulation, those kind of things. So it is a big trend that they are quite expensive at the moment because of the gas, and also because when you have for your mortgage, when you have new build, it is the bank to give you a little bit more advantage regarding your mortgage, of course. So then here you can see then you can see what the numbers are. And I have some specific numbers for Maastricht area. So here is the average price, 297,000 euros. Square meters 2,538. So you can go deeply on the presentation and look at the numbers a little bit more careful. This is the Q1 for 2023. So as you can see, it's a little bit less than last year, a little bit less, 1.6% less than last year, the same time, and then 3.7% less than the last quarter. So you can see the amount of the houses that were sold. They were also a little bit less. So then you can, you can go a little bit deep on the numbers if you like, but just to have the important one, it is the average price and then the average price per square meter in your region. So in here in Maastricht, it is 2,538. So that's just for you. The selling time, it is quite fast as well, 39 days. So a little bit more than a month. And that depends from area to area, of course. For example, in Amsterdam, it takes about 16 days, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, it's a more competitive area. The prices are completely different, much more people as well. So 39 days, still a very, very fast number, a very fast process. Some market drivers, what caused the price of the property to increase, or we are talking about increase because the past 3 years, the price went really skyrocket. I would say even the last 4 years since 2015, the prices are going really, really high, on average, sometimes 19% a year. Of course, now things are different. The prices are a little bit, slightly, a little bit down, but also there is a big difference regarding overbidding and paying the market value. I'm telling you this now, but in further, I will explain the difference, and then you're going to see, you're going to understand a little bit more of prices going up and down. Fiscal benefits, you do have tax exemption, the 2% transfer taxes. I will go further on that as well, a little bit more deep on that as well further. Interest rebates, when you buy a property in the Netherlands, you have an interest rebate on your mortgage. You can have that monthly or once a year. So that's something that the mortgage advisor can go very deeply with you and can explain everything about it. No capital gains as well. Tax-free parent donation. So if your parents live abroad and they are donating any money for you to buy a property in the Netherlands, you don't pay any taxes. Doesn't matter how much is the amount. But if your parents do live in the Netherlands and they are donating money for you, now since 2023, yes, no, you still have this year, you can still have them donate up to 28,000 euros without paying any taxes. But from next year on, it's the parent donation will end it only if your parents do live in the Netherlands. If they live abroad, it doesn't matter. So then there is no, it's completely tax free. So if you when you receive any money to help you out to buy a property, it has to be to buy a property though. So then you don't pay the taxes. And they have to be abroad, remember that. Low interest rates, although a lot of people, and it is, of course, much higher than there was the same time last year. We are in March. I think the same last year was around 2%, 2.1, and today is about 4.5, almost 5, and it goes back to 4. It's still a very low interest rate compared to other countries. And also because you don't have to do the crazy overbidding anymore. At least we see that there's a trend now that the prices are kind of stabilizing, so the interest rates are considered still low. And if we look at the history of this country regarding interest rates, they are actually very low still. It's only that the interest rates for the past 2 years, 1.9, 2%, 1.5, sometimes 1.2, 1.1, for example, it was way too low. Actually, it was too low, and the market, of course, wouldn't. Sorry, it wouldn't be able to sustain itself for too long, right? So that's one of the reasons. High rents, you probably all know this, renting a property in the Netherlands, it is something very difficult, plus the rents are very, very high. And they are going to put the rents up again now, end of May, end of June, beginning of July, from the 1st of July, sorry. The rents will go up again. So if you're renting a property, you most likely have a rental contract that will say that they are allowed to put the rents up from the 1st of July. So pay attention to that, and so you don't have any surprises. And a lack of supply. You probably also heard about that now we have around 300,000 homes that are missing in this country, that they are not able to build as fast as they need. They have too many people coming, not enough properties for everyone. So which makes their rents go very, very high. So which also makes it difficult to buy, because the competition for one house is also very high, right? So that's so that made the prices increase so much in the last years, and it's still, although the prices are going slightly down a little bit, which I don't agree fully, but I will explain to you later. It's still the lack of supply is too big, and especially when the energy label for buildings A, B, which is quite good, which is going to pay less, or if there is no gas whatsoever, you do have the chance that the competition is high for that specific property. The current market, let's talk a little bit about the current market. Increase of the interest rate, but it's still, as I said before, historic low, 80% more active listen. So what happened was that people were okay buying properties before. Well, I actually did. I can give my example. I did that. I sold my property even before buying a new one, because I bought my property before selling the house I had. It was the other way around. I wanted a new house. That was in 2018, and we just bought it, and then we were not even afraid that we wouldn't sell the house that we had at the moment. Because of course the market was completely different, lack of supply, that's still the same, but the interest rates were quite low. The amount of people who were buying that time, it was insane because of the low interest rates. What people didn't realize is that although the interest rates are quite low, the overbidding was also very, very high. And overbid is when you pay more for a property than the market value. Again, I will go there. I will deep on that one for you to understand that. Less overbidding. So that's the current market. People are not overbidding that much anymore. Sellers do want more security. So they rather sell to someone that will have their mortgage approved, that the documents are all correct, that they don't waste their time, or they won't lose the mortgage for the next property. So what is happening today is that people are selling first their property, and then to make sure that the people get mortgage approved, that everything is correct. And then after that, they will buy something, because also the lack of supply is not that easy anymore, right? It's still a lack of supply, again, due to the high material costs. That's also been a big problem in the Netherlands. The material costs are skyrocketed, especially after the war started, but not only that. It's definitely a lack of supply of not having them, even when you want to pay for it. So we see a lot of buildings. We have also people to buy new builds. So we see a lot of my clients, for example, now complain that they have to stop for a while the construction because they can't find some specific material anywhere. It's going to take 3 or 4 or 6 months more to receive those materials to finish the property. So that's also something that is happening. Let's talk about the news that I said before. So there are some things that you need to know. The first one is a very important one, self-occupancy obligation, which means that if you buy a property, if you bought a property, or if you buy a property from now on, since last year, 1st of October 2022, and the Maastricht area, also the little villages around, that also applies. You no longer, if your house has a WOZ value of up to 355, and let me start to explain to you what is a WOZ value. So a WOZ value is the value given for let's work for we see 355. So let's say the WOV of this fake property that we are talking about it is 325, which means that this value, the WOZ value, is a value given by the municipality to charge you taxes for the house, the water border taxes, the sewage taxes, those kind of things, the property taxes, the ground taxes, those kind of things. So that's WOZ value is for. There's nothing to do with the Funda value. There's nothing to do with the market value. So remember the value you see when you go to Funda selling to see a property that is for sale. So you see that, let's say, I don't know, 375. So that's nothing to do with WOZ value. There's a special website for that. It is actually WOZ, WOZ.nl, and there you put the postcode of the property and the number, and then you can see how much is WOZ value of that property. Why I'm saying that? It's because if you're thinking about it and buying a property and rent it out in the next 2 years or so, it won't be possible. If you bought a property after the 1st of October 2022, or if you buy a property now, you do in the remember, WOZ value is the key of that. So if the WOZ value is less than 355, you're not allowed to rent this house without permission. So you can only rent it out after 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, if you have lived yourself in the house. So that's why they call it self-occupancy. So if you buy a house that the WOZ value is more than 355, that's okay. You can just rent it out. Of course, if you buy to let, that's a different kind of mortgage. If you buy for rent, that's a different mortgage. But if you just buy and going to live by yourself, you're going to live in the property for a year or two, for example, and then you want to rent it out, it has to be a property that the WOZ value is more than 355. If it's less than that, you're not allowed to rent it out for the first 4 years. You have to live in the property, be registered in the property yourself for the first 4 years. Just so you know, if you click in that link, you can see there, click here, if you click on that link, it is in English, you can read the whole exceptions, you can read the reasons. Well, the reason is that they wanted to ban investors for buying all the cheap properties in the market and then make them pretty and rent it out, right? So there was no room until last year. I myself had many investors as clients. They would just call us and said like, well, I have 250,000 euros in cash, or I have 400 in cash, buy everything you can and just rent it out. So if you need a mortgage and I come with cash, there's no competition. I will win. I will always buy the house. So in this way, because the WOZ value has to be bigger than 355 to be able to rent it out, then the investors are they actually gone, and we don't have that many anymore, which give the first buyers or normal people like us, they're not investors, a chance to buy a property, right? And most likely, normally the WOZ value is always lower than the market value, just for you to understand. Less competition for average buyers, as you see, 60% of the municipalities are already part of the scheme in the Netherlands. I would higher up this number to 80% now. A lot of them are higher the price, and it depends on municipality, every municipality. So if you're not from Maastricht, if you just live around the village, that will be the same amount, 355. But if you are from another city that doesn't belong to the Maastricht area, you do have to check your municipality website to make sure that what is the WOZ value that you can buy a property and rent it out afterwards, because every municipality has a different one, just for you to understand. NHG to increase to 405. NHG is a type of mortgage that you can have in the Netherlands. It's a special mortgage, but they have normally lower interest rates, a little bit more security if something happens when you lose a job or you're not able to, no longer able to work anymore. So then you can apply for this mortgage, but you can only buy a property up to 405, maximum value of 405,000 euros, and you do have to be no, it's just a property up to 405,000 euros. More buyers will have access to this mortgage, but it is okay, of course, in between the very competitive price. We would say from 270 into 400, 410 is a very large amount of people that can have that as a budget. So it makes it a little bit more competitive. But yeah, if you would like to use that special mortgage, it has to be more than up to a maximum value of the property of 405. Also, one other thing for the transfer taxes. So when you buy a house in the Netherlands, you have transfer taxes and that you have to pay. You're going to see a whole a little bit further in the presentation, you're going to see all the costs of the process, and then you're going to see the first one is transfer taxes. So if you're not buying a new build, then you do have to pay transfer taxes. There is no exception. Only if you buy a new build, it doesn't matter how old you are or the value, you never pay transfer taxes. But if you're already registered in that property, then you do have to pay them, unless you buy a property up to 440,000 K and you are younger than 35 years old. If you are older than 35, but the property costs 410, you have to pay transfer taxes. If you are, let's say you have a partner and you yourself is 33 and your partner is 37 and the house is 410,000 euros, for example, it means that you pay then 1% of transfer taxes because one of the buyers are older. The one of the buyer is older than 35. So just for you to understand. Same thing. You can click there. You can read more. You can go more deep on that one. But please talk to your mortgage advisor as well because he can even explain better, that what is the possibility for you. Well, this is the part that I'm explaining about the savings. It's a very good one. So remember I said the first one you will see it's a transfer taxes, right? So this is an overview of how much you need in cash to be able to buy a mortgage, to buy a house in the Netherlands. And why I'm saying that, it's because the bank will only finance the property, not the costs. So for example, the costs are the transfer taxes, the mortgage, the notary. You do need a notary, it's mandatory. They will write the transfer deed and the mortgage deed. You do need a mortgage advisor or a bank to do your mortgage. You can't do it yourself unless you pay in cash. So also the banks, if you don't know that, also the banks do charge you to have your mortgage. It's not just because you have a bank account at ABN that is for free. You do have to pay for them to do your mortgage. I believe they charge around 1,800 or so. I'm not really sure. There's a buying agent if you need one. I will explain you about our values later on. It is mandatory if you need a mortgage. It is mandatory that you have an appraisal report, evaluation report for the house. The bank wants to know what is the real market value. Sorry, I have to take a little bit of water. Give me 1 second. Thank you. The bank wants to know what is the market value of the property. And why they need to know that? Because funda value, it's not the market value of the property. I'll go through that later, then you understand. Technical inspector, that's not mandatory, but it is something that you can choose. And if you have an older house, of course, we very much recommend that. And to have one, and they cost around 465. An interpreter, if you don't speak fluently Dutch, it cannot be only understanding a little bit. It has to be fluently. It's mandatory that you have a translator. You can choose your own language, of course. One tip for you: English is much cheaper than any other language. I've been on that. So I remember I wanted to have a Portuguese one for the first time when I bought the first house, and it was like triple of the English one. So just so you know, second house, of course, English one. Bank guarantee. Bank guarantee is something that you have to pay you have to transfer 10% of the purchase price to the notary. That money will be used as a penalty if something happens in the process to pay the seller. The mortgage advisor will explain that to you very, very carefully. It's mandatory in all the agreements. Even if you buy the house in cash or with mortgage, it doesn't matter. You do have to pay that. You have to transfer 10% of the purchase price to the notary. And then when the process is finished, when you get the keys of the notary, they will give you the money back. You don't have to pay that by yourself. If you have in savings, of course, that's great, but you don't have to. You can always borrow. It's like a temporary loan from the bank. So you can always borrow from the bank, but of course they charge some fee. That's around 250, 280, depends on the bank. And remember I told you about NHD mortgage. So that, although it's a special mortgage and have their benefits, NHD do charge one-time fee of 0.6 of the mortgage amount. So all of that, your question might be, how do I calculate how much I need then? So I'll give you a very good tip about it. So all of that, it's about 5% more or less, 5% of the purchase price of the property. So let's work with 300,000 euros. So if you're looking for a property for 300,000, it means that you have to have 5% of those 300,000 will be 1,500, right? 15,000. So if you are not paying the transfer taxes because you are younger than 35 or because of the property is a maximum of 440, then it means that you only need 3% of the 300. So you can always calculate like this. Based on the transfer taxes, you calculate like this: 5% if I have the exception of the 2%, and 3% if 5% if I don't have the exception, sorry, and 3% if I do have the exception. Then you know how much you need in cash to be able to buy a property in the Netherlands. Why? Because the bank, again, the bank will only finance the mortgage, only finance the property, nothing else, not the process. So this is a good overview. Again, you will receive this, so then you can always check when you're searching for a property, right? So yeah, I hope it was clear enough. I need to touch here because it's not going. Oh, okay. 3 tips to win in the current market. So value. This is the part that explains to you about market value, funda value, and why the bank needs a valuation report. So let's talk about, we have a house here just as an example. It's any house anywhere, just an example really, for you to understand market value and funda value. So let me put it this way. If you are a real estate agent, if you sell houses, and only them, they are the ones that can add properties on funda, only them, nobody else can do that. So if you're selling a house, you are a real estate agent and you have a very nice house to sell, you can literally, of course, I hope they don't do that, and they always do their research regarding market value, of course, but they can literally choose any price to put it on funda, any price, very high, very low, it doesn't matter. They can always choose that. So in this case, for example, this is the asking price, where asking price means funda price, the value that there was on funda. In this case, it's 395,000 euros, right? You see this. So look at this, 395,000. And remember, funda value, and the bank needs appraisal value, market value, valuation report to be able to give you a mortgage. So market value. So the appraiser went to that property and he said to my client, to me, for an example, that the actual market value of this property is 415. So it is for sale for 395. Market value is actually 415, which is also, that means that the real estate put the prices down, right, for the property, so they can have more people coming. But let's say my client bought actually this property for 435. So look what happens here when people talk about overbidding. So if you think about how much they overbid regarding asking price and purchase price, that's 10% of the value, which is quite a lot. But when you think about the overbidding regarding the market value, they overbid over 4.8. And what does that mean? It means that they paid actually, because you can never think about funda value is just for you to do your search, really. And after that, forget it. Forget the funda value, especially if you need a mortgage, because the bank needs the valuation report. So valuation report, sorry, is done by an appraiser. So when you see this, the valuation report, the market value of 415, it means that the bank will give you as a mortgage 415, not €1 more than that. Even if your budget is like 1 million, this is what they're going to give you. This is the real worth of the house, 415. Anything you pay above that, if you pay below, great, you bought below market value, right? But anything you pay above that, above market value, you have to pay in cash, which means that in this case, my client, it's going to pay 20K in cash, plus the costs of the process. Remember those 3 to 5%, right? So this is for you to have an idea. I have another example. Asking price is even lower, 375. Same property, market value is the same, 415. And then same thing, 435. That was what they paid for the property. So in this case, it's even higher, the overbid, if you compare to funda. They paid 60K more. But remember, we forget funda, right? When you have the market value, you forget funda. They pay basically the same. You see, if you compare. So when people say you have to overbid 10, 20%, it might be regarding funda value, but you never know if the funda value is lower than the market value, it's above market value, or super lower than the market value. So that's why price research is very important before you send an offer. So in this case, again, they're going to get a mortgage of 415. Remember, valuation report, that's the only money the bank will give it to you. And the 20K more, they're going to have to pay in cash, plus the costs of the process. So another example, 450. Asking price is 450. And then I did my price research and I told my clients that actual market value for this property is 425, which means that the agent put the prices way too high for this property, which means that also the bank only going to give you 425. You see, they're not going to give you, if you pay more than that, they're not going to give you, you're going to have to pay in cash. If you cannot pay in cash, you're not getting a mortgage. So purchase price is 450. In this case, my clients say, wow, I love this house. I want it. I don't want to miss it. I will pay 20K more. So again, asking price 450. So there is no overbid. There is no overbid. You see the difference now? But then they pay 25K, purchase price 450, market value 25K. So they have to pay 25K from their own pocket, which is quite a lot, right? But they didn't overbid. Funda value. They overbid market value. So that's when the overbidding gets confused, because people know about the overbidding regarding Funda market, Funda value. And in this case, remember, Funda.nl, the website would have the houses. So in this case, everybody's going to say that there was no overbidding, but there was, because they only got a mortgage of 425. They paid more than the house is actually worth it, right? So here you can see a different one. So asking price 450. And then my client, I send the offer of 425 because we saw, and he needs 100% finance, right? So that means he doesn't have any cash to overbid. They only have the 3 to 5% to pay the process, but not more to give an extra, right? So, which means that they pay less than the asking price, of course, but the asking price, remember when people say like, oh, we pay much less than the asking price, it doesn't mean that they made a good deal. It just, because nobody knows the market value until they buy a property, until they have an appraiser being in the house, or they have us, an agent, that we can calculate the market value, that we can do a price research and let you know what is the correct value for this property. Do you see here? So they actually didn't pay less. They just pay what was worth it. So here we have, I hope you understand the whole value thing. What you have to remember is that you need an appraiser, you need a price research. Whatever the appraiser says in that report, that's how much you're going to get a mortgage. Of course, if you have the budget, right? But let's say your budget is much higher, it doesn't matter. The bank will give you that. Anything you pay above that, you pay in cash, plus the costs of the process, the 3 to 5%. So that's how we calculate the process, and that's how we calculate the value that you're going to put in the offer to be sent to the sellers. Yeah? A winning offer. Always offer a good price. So, and why I'm saying that, it's because if you, let's use that house that it was too expensive on Funda, 450. So most likely that agent already know that the house is above the market value, right? Because they also have access to the numbers. So he knows that if someone comes with an offer, like, let's say we're going to pay 500K, we're going to pay 50,000 more than you put it on Funda, but we need 100% finance. That guy knows that's not going to be possible because the worth of the house was actually 425. So even if you have the highest offer, the highest price in your offer, you're not going to get accepted because you put subject to 100% of mortgage. So they know that you're never going to get 100% of mortgage because the appraisal will put in the report 425, not the 500 you offer. So which means that the bank will deny the mortgage. So it's not always the highest price. It is the price that is realistic, right? Offer security to the seller. So which means that consult your mortgage advisor, have all your documents ready to go, have them check your documents before you offer, talk to an agent, make sure that we know everything in the process, that anything that they need is going to be there, and offer the less amount of hassle, which means that let's say I will give you my example, right? I bought a very old house, 1906. I knew that house needed renovation because I think the last time they did something was like in the 60s. It was terrible, really. But I was looking for something like that because I do love a renovation. So if I put it in my offer that I need a technical inspection, I need them to fix the roof, or I need them to fix something in the bathroom, that ain't happening because everyone that saw that house knew the house needed a renovation. So if I put all of those demands, they will sell to someone else, even if they have the best offer, because it was too much work for them, right? So think about it. Offer a personal touch, but that's when also an agent comes in handy though. They can advise on how to do the best way to do. Offer a personal touch. So very often people like to know who is buying their houses. Some people are very attached to it, or the kids are born in the house, or I don't know, or they have this tree in the garden that they love so much. So it's nice for them to know a little bit about you, and also that can offer a little bit more security to them, like where you work, those kind of information that will be nice to see, especially if they're in the desperation mood where they have to sell it for some specific reason. They will want to have the most security offer, and does not have to be the most highest one. Remember that is the one that gives them more security. Again, that's when an agent comes in very handy, because we can help you through that process and help and tell you what is necessary to have that property, right? Due diligence. What is going to happen after? Oh, again, I answered the question. After the offer gets accepted. So technical inspection and appraiser. We always have this, when do you book them? It is after. I already answered you before. So the technical inspector, let me put this one. The technical inspector, it comes before you sign the offer. after the offer gets accepted and you sign the purchase agreement, that's the agreement between you and the seller. You do have about 1.5 weeks to sign the agreement. I was thinking a word in Dutch, sorry, to sign that agreement. So before you sign, that's also another tip. I see a lot of happens with expats that the selling agents will say, you have to sign the contract, because if you don't sign it, I will sell to someone else. Please do not sign the contract until you have an appraisal, making sure that the price that you pay, that the price that you need is in the report. In the house, and also a technical inspector that if it is an old house, because if something comes up in the report that is terrible, we had that with a client once, but of course we didn't let them sign it, but they had to change the whole, in the inspection report came that they had to change the whole roof of the property in less than a year. So we were able to negotiate the value for that. So you can imagine if you sign the purchase agreement and then only after that you get the report, you couldn't do anything, because the only way when you sign a purchase agreement to get out of the deal without paying any penalty, when I say penalties, those 10% that will go to the seller, it is if you not get your mortgage approved, but not because anything else. So let's say everything is good, you sign the purchase agreement, and then someone, and then you woke up the next day. Well, you do have 3 days after you sign the purchase agreement, working days, to get out of the deal without paying any penalty. But after those 3 days, you can't anymore, only if your mortgage is not approved. So let's say you woke up after those 3 working days and then say, I'm not sure I like the property, or I'm not sure about the neighborhood, I don't think we should buy it. You can't anymore, only if your mortgage is not approved. But those are the 2 times you buy them. And then be aware that the mortgage advisor, he's not going to look into see if the oven is working, those kind of things, because that's something the seller should tell you. And it's going to have a less inspection will happen to look at those things as well. He's going to look at the structural part of the house to see if everything is the way it's supposed to be, right? The timeline. So you do your search. I see that a lot of people are already doing search. You submit an offer. Be careful with the offer. That's why an agent come handy again. There are many clauses that can protect you. At the same time, they don't make your offer not appealing anymore. So just be careful with that. And an agent can come very handy. We can help you with that. Submit the offer. Let's say the offer gets approved. An appraiser, a technical inspection needs to be booked after them being in the house. But just be mindful that it has to happen very quickly, because until you sign the purchase agreement, there is no agreement. If you don't sign it, there's no agreement. So that's why I put 1.5 weeks, because it goes really quickly. They have been in the house, and if you have an agent, we are able to book that for you very fast and go through the process as well with you. And then you sign the purchase agreement. If everything is correct, the value is the one you needed, the technical inspection came in a good, everything was in a good condition. Getting the explanation, of course, sign the purchase agreement. In the meantime, a notary also has to be found. So because the purchase agreement will be sent to the notary. And then you start your mortgage application. Everything, purchase agreement and signed purchase agreement evaluation report from the appraiser will be sent to the mortgage advisor, and he will start the applications. And then you do remember I told you you have those 3 we call cool-off periods. You have 3 days, working days to think about it and maybe say, no, not for me, get out of the deal. No penalties pay. Of course, you're going to have to pay the appraisal and the inspection because I have been in the property for you already. But then you don't have to pay the 10% bank guarantee to the seller. The mortgage application takes about 4 weeks. I see today some of them are more fast than that even, but I also saw them. That's why in the contract say like 4 to 6 weeks, just to be sure, but just an average of 4 weeks. When the mortgage application is approved, everything will be sent to the notary, and the notary is going to start to write the transfer deed and the mortgage deed. And then here is also a statement completion. Remember when I told you about those 3 to 5% that you have to pay, that you need to have in cash to be able to buy a property in the Netherlands? So this is the final note. This is where you pay. It's about 2 weeks before you go into the notary to get your keys, and then a little bit before you go into the notary, you go into the property, do a last inspection. The property has to be in the same state as it was when you were at the viewing, when the offer gets accepted. If something breaks in the middle, the selling part is the one that has to fix it, everything. And then after everything is signed, the property is actually officially yours. And then only then you start to pay the mortgage, not at the beginning when your offer got accepted, not here when the mortgage application was approved, but only at the beginning of the process when you get your keys. And one thing I want to talk to you about this, about Funda. Remember, I want to explain to you a little bit about Funda. So when you go to Funda and then you see that the property is available, for example, it doesn't mean that it's available for you to move in. in a month, it means that it's available to sell. So as you can see on this timeline, this process takes about at least 2.5-3 months for you to get the mortgage approved, to get the whole process done. For example, search, let's say you send an offer tomorrow and the day after gets accepted. You do have around 1.5-2 weeks to sign the purchase agreement. So that's already 2 weeks, right? And then you have more 4 weeks for the mortgage. That's a month and a half almost. And then the notary needs about 2 or 3 weeks to write the transfer deed and the mortgage deeds. So that's almost 3 months right now. So when you see a house on Funda, always ask when is the transfer date, because I have clients, for example, that we bought a property last year in September, but they only going to get the keys when you see here inspection and transfer deed. That's when you get the keys. They're only going to get the keys in June this year. So it might take longer for you to move in, especially in this market, because people are a little bit afraid of buying properties because first of all, there are no properties, right? Interest rates going up and down every day. So what they want to do, they sell first. And then they said, yeah, I'm selling now, but then you can only, we are in March now, but you can only move in October, November, because then I will be sure that I have a house by them and everything will be, or maybe they're building a new property, or maybe that's the time they're going to go abroad, you see? So that's why, and that's why you only start to pay your mortgage also when you only get the keys. So if you see a property now and you get an offer accepted now, and the transfer, you see the last part here, the orange one, transfer deed, key handover, it's October, that's when you start to pay the mortgage, right? And about 2 weeks before that is when you pay those 3 to 5%. And then after you get your keys, everything's, you move in right away after you move, get out of the notary, you can move into the property. You have around, and I would be very careful with this, end of liability term, you have around 2 months. I would say turn that down, put that down to 1.5. What is a liability month is when you move into the property, and then you live there, and then if major things comes that it was not that you caused, let's say you found out that the roof was completely messed up and it needs renovation after a week you moved in, for example. If that's not in the documents of the properties, if that's not mentioned anywhere, if the technical inspection didn't have that in the documents, then most likely be for the liability of the seller to fix that. Again, gray zone, very gray zone, and you have very nice sellers and you have sellers. And in your transfer deed, it will come that, in your purchase agreement, sorry, it will come that from the day you get the keys of the house, you are the responsible for the house. So insurance is in hand. Of course, it is actually mandatory when you do a mortgage analysis. So that's why I say gray zone, and try to use the house as much as you can in the first weeks that you move in, because it's the longer you wait, more difficult is to make the seller liable for anything that happens in the property, right? Let's move further. No, wait a second. Yeah. This is our package that we work in our company. If you'd like to work with us, again, you can book an intake. You can book an intake with us, and I can go. But just for you to have an idea, when you see, for example, complete package 1% of the appraisal value, remember the valuation report. So let's say we bought a property for 450, but the evaluation report comes at 400. We charge you our fees based on the appraisal report. It doesn't matter how much you pay for the house. That's how it works with us. It's not a percentage of the purchase price, but a percentage of what the valuation report is, because that's the real market value, and that's why we feel like that is more fair to our clients, right? So you can always click on them, book an intake, and I can go further with you. Now it's time for the questions, and now it's time for my lovely friend to come in. Rafaela, hi. Let's see. There she is. Oh, no, almost. Yeah, there she is.
Hello, Diovana. Thank you for the presentation. It was really nice and very informative indeed.
Thank you very much.
I do have one question here, a very nice one. Do people in general overbid in Maastricht, or is it more common to buy at or below market value?
So it depends. It really depends. If the house, I had clients having both things already. If the property it has a very good energy label, it's more close to the central station. If it's a property that you can literally move in, even sometimes without painting walls, you know, that you can only have to clean, normal cleaning, then you do have more competition, which means that it might be that people will overbid more. But if it's a house that they can use a little bit more like painting, energy label is like C or D, then the chances of overbidding are much less, of course. But of location counts, so it really depends on the property. You see the properties that are more modern, that they are much younger, that are not so old. For example, properties that are around 10 years old, 15 years old. A property considered old is more than like 35, 40 years, for example. Before than that, it's just a normal property. So which means that people tend to overbid on those properties, because not just because they tend to overbid, just because you have, instead of having, I don't know, 5 people interest, you're going to have like 25. So then we most likely going to tell you not to do so, but you always, it really depends on a kind of a buyers that we have for the property. You just pay attention and remember, you always have crazy people that will come in with cash and go and say like, I'm going to buy it anyway. I don't care. So yeah, it really depends. It's hard to say, because it might be that today you have to, it might be that next month you don't have to. It depends on each property, and also depends on the market value, on the price research that we have to do to find out the market value. I hope that answers the question.
Perfect. That was very clear. I don't see any other questions at the moment, actually.
While we were waiting for a few seconds, if there is any more questions, I will just launch a little poll here very fast about your experience on our webinar. If you could, if you could let us know what you think, that would be great. It's also very quickly, a few seconds, but I guess we have more questions, do we? Or no? I saw something popping up.
Yes, there is 2 questions. Should I start with a discussion with bank to see what's the max mortgage amount, or is it straightforward given that it's 5 times the gross salary?
No, it's not straightforward given that it's 5 times. This is just an average of what it is. So please do talk to your mortgage advisor or the bank right away, because, for example, I'll give you my example again. When I did my mortgage, the second one, actually not the first one, but the second one, some banks do not accept that depends how things are on your payslip. That's how they will read it. So it might be that in your payslip, a lot of things are said, and you're going to take the whole gross salary and make a calculation. But then the bank's going to look at 5 things of those things, and then they're going to make a calculation. That's what the problem is. Because when the time comes that you need a mortgage, it is really fast, the process. You remember, 1.5 weeks after your offer gets accepted to sign the purchase agreement. So in that week, you need to have everything sorted out for your mortgage. So it's very important that you have everything sorted out before you send an offer. Then you know what actual your value is. For example, for me, it was that one bank did not accept the bonus that I have as a part of my income, although it's a very steady company. The same thing was for my husband. So we had to jump to another bank. They said, that's fine, we accept it. And then our budget was higher. So you see, it really depends. So you can make a large calculation on that one, definitely 5 times, but it really depends how the company you work for put things on your payslip. And that's how the bank will look like. So I very much advise you to do so. And one more thing, if you guys don't have a mortgage advisor, you can drop an email and I can send you a little list of people that you could call and have an intake for free as well to talk about your budgets and also look at your documents. And then after that, you can talk to us, and then we can go through the buying process with you and see the preference and those kind of things. So just for you to understand, if you don't know anyone, you always can talk to your bank, but I would say talk to a mortgage advisor as well, because the price is not too different from another. And in the Netherlands, you have about 42 types of institution that gives you the mortgage. And if you go to ABN, for example, Rabobank, you're only going to talk to them, nobody else. So those mortgage advisors, they can see other institutions that will use your payslip as a full, for example. And if you don't know anyone, please just let me know. I can send you some names. I can send you an email with names, and then you can talk to them about it.
Perfect, thank you. Let's go to another question. Do you get better interest rates for the loans if you can pay a certain amount of the market value at the selling date?
There, at the selling date, no. In the Netherlands, there's no such a thing of pay anything on selling date. You do have to pay everything to the notary. The notary, if you're not getting a full mortgage, let's say you're going to get 70%, for example. Yes, the banks might give you a better interest rate, indeed, because the risk is also less, especially if they have to sell the property if something happens that you can't pay. But you only pay anything of the cash, for example, the 30% if you want to pay in cash, together with that. Remember that invoice that the notary will send you, together with the cost of the process. That's when you pay. There's nothing you can pay before.
Perfect, thank you. Let's move forward. What's the best period to buy? Is summer more calm period, for example?
The best period to buy, I would say, if you, there's a thing with the weather in this country that we all know that is, in my opinion, terrible. You do have more, for example, now in March and April, that it should be better, April, sorry, but that it should be better the weather now. You see more houses on Funda, because if people are not desperate to sell and they have, let's say, a very nice backyard with a lot of trees or whatever, that people can actually see the sun more, the light, they will wait until April, end of March, to put their houses on Funda. And also people are not desperate to buy, and they want to see how much light it comes to their lights. They want to see what time how much sun they get. Then they will also wait for the same period between like April and October. You see more houses coming to the market, but you also see more people buying houses. So if you want to, I don't know, if you don't mind about all those things, let's say September, start to looking for, and then October, November, you see that it's going down a little, quite a lot. People like calm down. It's getting too dark, and then they wait until March, and then properties still come up in that period, but much less than they will come up now. And then if you're okay with that, then I would say the best might be that time, because there's a little bit less competition.
Great. There is another question regarding mortgage. Does the 30% tax rule make any difference to the mortgage value?
No, not really. The one thing that they tend to do is calculate with and without your 30% rule. So then you know how much you're going to pay afterwards. Yeah, of course. And they are basing that much more now, because people are staying in the net. Well, the 30% was 10 years. You could use the 30% for 10 years. Now it's only 5. So that makes a huge impact on mortgage impact. So what they tend to do is calculate with and without, and to see if you are going to be able to pay after those 5 years that your 30% is gone. And then the bank might say like, wait a second, you're not going to be able to pay if your 30% rule is less, it's gone, then let's put the amount down. So again, that's why the mortgage advisor is very convenient, because he calculates with and without it right away, and then he can tell you about what the best solution is.
Perfect, thank you. Do most of your clients have extra cash in case they would need overbid, or it's totally normal to start viewing and buying and you're just having enough for the transaction agency costs?
No, it's totally normal. A lot of people do have money for overbidding, but also a lot of people don't. They only have the transaction costs, indeed. So it's totally normal. That's fine. You can start looking. You never know what's going to happen with the house. And again, if the seller wants really a lot of security, it might be that you don't have to overbid whatsoever, because nobody knows where the money comes from. Nobody knows. It really depends, but you can start to look anyway. I would say do so. Yeah, indeed.
Perfect. Thank you. Where can we find the general rules to buying homes in the Netherlands, like the 4-year living in own apartment rule or reselling?
In this presentation, you're going to receive from the Maastricht City Hall, you're going to receive the rule. But if you need to know about any other city, then you have to go to their City Hall, and then you can see it. Just every one of them have a link about it, so you can read it for any other city on their own city halls. But you're going to receive in this presentation the one from Maastricht, for example, so that you can read it through.
Thank you. I see some people asking if this webinar is going to be recorded. So I just wanted to let you all know that it is recorded and you're going to receive the presentation and the recording via email afterwards.
Yes, indeed, you will. You receive everything within a day or two.
So I have another question from Agnes. What's the value we can find in the cadastre?
The cadastre is the value that they paid for the property. The cadastre only shows the transactions after they get the keys. So that's the value you can find in the cadastre. Yeah. So when you buy a property, after you go to the notary and sign the transfer deed, that document will go to cadastre, and then you can see how much people pay for the property. It doesn't mean it's market value because it doesn't say market value and then purchase price. It's only going to say how much they pay. So it might be much less than the market value. It might be much more. It might be the market value. So yeah, you never know. But that's what the cadastre show you. It's the transaction value, literally.
Perfect. I believe we covered all the questions.
Yes. Okay, then. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Again, you're going to receive everything, the recording and the presentation. The loss of the self-occupancy from Maastricht will be there as well. If you need from any other place, you have to Google under City Halls. If you need a mortgage advisor, name, let us know. We can send it to you. And if you have more questions that you maybe forgot now, or you seeing the presentation later on, also please send us an email. And yeah, feel free to book an intake and we can go through your personal situation to talk about your buying process personally. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Rafaela, for being here and helping me out. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you very much.